Welcome to the Center of Beauty. My name is Susan, and this video is titled Resolution, in parentheses, Modulation, and it's a series. This is part 4. If you haven't listened to the other 3 videos, I suggest you pause this video, listen to those videos, and then come back and join me. So far, we've taken a look at the relationship between the brain and the heart, and that communication where the heart emotions have been dictating the resolution. So we feel it and we believe it, but that's the extent of the resolution. And as far as the psyche is concerned, the psyche calls that interaction, those feelings, that excitement, fake news, because the belief system is year after year, New Year's after New Year, in and out, the resolution has still only been driven by emotions. So without alterations, by modifying the belief system, our psyche cannot go any further than the last belief that we extended to actually manifested it. So the psyche cannot go any further than what we put into action. So resolutions become straining to excel with like tangible results, but can't find the extensive aptitude, that power, that ability to proceed. So we end up having irresoluted resolutions that at the end, all we have is the brain and the heart sensations. And irresoluted resolutions become a form, it becomes a pattern, a routine pattern year after year. Being incapacitated by the feelings, the emotions, debilitated by the belief itself. And because our psyche is visceral, and I did a video on that, so you could always check that video out. But just like the sun is visceral, there's always movement, energy, but it's chaos, but there is order in it. And so if we have that order within our psyche to move and extend to support us in our resolution, it could cooperate with the brain and the heart emotion. And that's what we are attempting to have them coexist and work towards that one aim. With resolution, what usually happens, it comes from the premise of the solution superseding the problem. That's what is usually learned. And so each one, which the solution and the problem, each one of them have its weight and goal. So usually it's off balance when it's only solution oriented, disregarding the gift of rudimentary. And what I mean is that first principle, the early stages, the basic. There are gifts in that to learn what is the problem, because there are always answers within a problem. And the last thing I wanted to mention from the videos that I made prior to this is those idioms that support what I just stated. We will cross the bridge when we get there. You know, when the problem arises, we'll address it then, or don't look for trouble. Hence, quotes, problems, avoid problems at all costs. Well, and these are really upheld and spoken belief. But then we have the emotions and the heart telling a whole different story because it's geared to, I've made a resolution and I'm going to go and find the solution, negating again the gift that's in the problems. And so we take a look at system engineering because system engineering can help us to see the importance of both. So Merriam-Webster dictionary define resolution as the act or process of resolving, the act of analyzing, the act of answering, the act of determining. So we see that resolution is an act. William Paul Thurston, American mathematician, he said, mathematics is not about numbers, equation, computation, or algorithms. It is about understanding. And that's what I want to talk about, that understanding. System engineering is the process that we can use to develop something that is too complex to design and build as a single entity. And that's basically when we only rely on the brain and the emotion. That's one entity, that's a part of ourselves. And we're looking for the totality, all to contribute when we seek to make a resolution, the act, not just the proclamation. We are simply just too complex to simply rely on emotional hope. We think of the idea, we put form to it by taking some action. The first act is to think about our entire system as a whole. We can formulate and understand the relationship between the resolution and the external world. And when I mention world, I mean, in a sense, we start off in the internal world, our intimate world, which is the atmosphere, our surrounding, the world around us, and then the world at large. So I called it our ripple world concept, and that starts with our inner world internally. So when a resolution is stated, conceptualize, how often do we ripple outside? And I'll go in more into that. Instead of relying on the expansive world first. So just like the ripple, the expansive world, our minds, our emotions, our expansive world, our internal world begins with what is the belief system. So we're talking about resolution. So we have to have some understanding, a modicum of understanding. What's going on in my psyche? How is my brain and heart emotion reacting? If I say I'm going to do, and I mentioned in the first video the to-dos, then if I say I'm going to do, but my belief is saying, but I can't, that's dissonance. So we have to be in tune internally. And then the intimate world around us, our professional world, our social network, that's the next ripple. The difference between the tide effects is that the tides keeps rolling in, right? And it washes away. So If we start from external world, the expansive world, and then we roll in till we finally get to ourselves, by the time we get to our innermost beautiful world, that support system that we need, that starts to wash away. Instead of beginning that ripple effect with a ripple effect, that begins at the core and it unfolds. If we are fortunate to know our innermost world, intramural, that community of oneself, our resolutions wouldn't be so difficult and get washed away within the first 6 months of the year. Intramural is really so beautiful when we could conceptualize it. Intramural, just a single institution, if we view ourselves with having the solution along with the problem, knowing that all the answers will come together and we could see the beauty of the self, our individual selves unfolding. Albert Einstein said, creativity is intelligence having fun. And while system engineering really focus on optimum quality, finding that optimum quality, I view that as optimism when it relates to self, when it relates to resolution, is finding that optimism, because that could get lost by the time our belief system enter into the equation, where doubt, frustration, what we deem problems, with optimism to change it and to modulate the belief, we tend to succumb to it and call it trouble, too much trouble. But in the end, we're talking about ourselves. And so, where is the fun? So we can ask ourselves, what are the particulars that can be attributed to the feat of reaching the goal or not to reach the goal that we're trying to attain? What happened on behalf of our own success? Optimization is about decisions that ultimately enriches the resolution. Poor belief, incoherent of one's belief, counters it. What I love about system engineering, as a general rule, they look for a suitable solution to meet all the variable in what the project needs, what is needed. And I heard an engineer said a suitable solution might not be the best solution as it pertained to, say, another individual's particular needs, but it's a resolution. Actually, I said this part, that it's a resolution. Let me think about that again. So it's really about the suitable solution is not necessarily the best solution. And that's because it's an introspective solution and not an external consensus. And so it's safe to say it's all in the approach, or at least majority of it, it's in the approach that an individual takes towards their resolution. What is the approach? What is needed? What's the purpose? Because in reality, it doesn't really take much effort to manifest a resolution. You could begin it. It's difficult to maintain what is being built. When problem arises, instead of being identified without a laid out plan of the entirety, we get in a constant state of repetition, doing the same thing over and over again. Hence, no modulation, no, and then there is no change. That's what modulation really is, change. There are glitches, and glitches are not troubling. They're irregularities in a system. Learning the transformative process of taking the information, of taking that information and utilizing it for change. That's what modulation is. It's about extension, gaining clarification of one's own experience. That's a gift. Imagine having an organized, intentional process of testing ideas and testing what we have learned relevant to the problems that we face. In regards to the utensil example that I gave in the last video, someone showed up with a plastic fork, I believe I said, and a knife, and for a formal dining, not knowing about silverware and what formal dining entails. And so they brought what they had to the table, literally. So you could listen more extensively to that example. But in this video, in regards to the utensil experience, he or she, whoever that individual was, didn't see a problem with what they brought to the table. That's all they knew, right? We come into these resolution with all that we know, right? And we utilize that. So they brought what they had to the table. It's not wrong. It's used and it's useful, but based on the setting, the utensil is correct, right? So they brought that to the table. That's a sensible solution that lacked general knowledge of the answer. And like the game of Jeopardy, what is formal dining? And that, at the end of the day, when it comes to the resolution, we have to ask ourselves questions. The answers don't always come first. Or actually, we'll have answers, but not have knowledge of what really is the question. Andrew Wiles, an English mathematician, he said, just because we can't find a solution doesn't mean there isn't one. You see, materialization reveals the extent of understanding in regards to practical system of engineering. Bringing the plastic fork or a knife or a spoon to a silverware setting, formal dining, materialization just reveals the extent of my understanding, just like with resolutions. What I love about system engineering, and in regards to this, a general knowledge of basic, casual, and formal place setting wasn't distinctively known clearly. if he or she had system engineering training on formal dining, she would have literally brought more to the table and specific type of tableware. So our brain and our heart solvent happy, that individual could be happy to contribute, right? But there is a psyche gridlock in the belief. And so this is all I know, and this is what I will bring to, the table, the solution. But system engineering trains us in a more formal way. We learn specifics. And that's why I mention math, because it's specific. It's beautiful. You have to erase sometimes some of the formula because they're not correct. The answers are in the problems, but you see it plays out. And that's where the scent of beauty lies. To find the resolution is not magic. It's learning the system of engineering. And I'll wrap by saying Andrew Wiles' English mathematician said pure mathematics just love to try unsolved problems. They love a challenge. Why not challenge ourselves and love ourselves enough to challenge who we are? Not to give up on our resolutions. We have the ability to modify and watch ourselves unfold. Welcome to the Scent of Beauty. Thank you for listening.